From the News Channel 5 Network, this is Urban Outlook.
Look, my name's Aundrea Clint-Thomas, in for April Eaton. We've got a great show planned for you. We're going to talk about how to save money. Who doesn't like to do that? But saving money through your taxes. It's not too early to start planning, but first we're going to talk about a great program called the Take One program that helps inmates transition back into society. We're joined today by Deborah Thompson and Bill Gupton.
Yes.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, we're happy to have you here. Let's first talk about what is the reality for inmates when they're coming back after their release.
Yeah. So 90 to 95% of inmates across the country, and especially in Tennessee, will return home at some point. Only a few will spend the rest of their life with us in prison. And you know, while the majority, a little over the majority, never come back to prison, 49% find their way back to us, and that's too high. And so, you know, the department has invested a lot in education and vocational programs, mental health, medical and substance abuse, and we do a great job, I believe, inside the facility. And so the need is really when offenders return home. And so that's where the Take One vision came from.
And what is so difficult for them when they come back home?
Employment, housing, some of the same things that all citizens deal with. A felony being on your record makes it difficult for employment. So our thought is that if we could get the community involved and get them to understand that they can take an active role in public safety, that for every offender that doesn't come back to us, there's less victims, less costs associated with that. And so...
So, Deborah, tell us, how is the community getting involved?
This is how the community gets involved. What Take One is asking is for faith-based and nonprofit organizations to take just one offender upon their release and mentor them for that first year upon their release. A lot of times, just to add to what Bill was saying, when a person is released, they feel isolated, they feel alone, they're already dealing with a lot of times their families are dealing with what they have done, and when they're inside the facility, they have a lot of structure. So when they get outside, they're dealing with a whole new world. A lot of things have changed, especially for someone who has served 7 years, 5 years or more. Technology moves forward, the world is moving forward, and so it's a scary situation for them. And they have fears of reoffending, they have fears of going, if they've had problems with addictions or substance abuse. And for years of working with field services, probation and parole, a lot of offenders reoffend because they don't have anybody there that is supporting them, someone to tell them that they can make it, someone to be there so they can be accountable. And once they have that support system and they know that there's somebody there who believes in them, that's telling them, I know you can make it, that's not judging them for their past and what they did in the past, then they're going to be successful when they have that support system. So that's what Take One is about. And even though we're talking about taking one offender, a lot of organizations have asked, can we take more than one? Yes, they can take more than one person and mentor them. And we're not asking for faith-based and nonprofit organizations to go out and spend a lot of money. We're just asking for them to do what they already have been doing. Just take this person and love them and mentor them and support them and help them along the way.
So let's break that down, because, you know, on the surface, it seems like a lot to be asking people to do. So how do we break this down, and really what does it entail?
What that basically entails is what we're going to do with as TDOC, because we're a partner in this with the community, and we're basically, prior to that offender getting out, we're going to evaluate that offender. We're going to assess whatever their needs are. For example, if they need substance abuse counseling, then we're going to make sure that they're provided with that. If they need, we're going to work on with the community with them with housing. If they need employment, we do have offenders are having an opportunity while they are incarcerated to get some job training and actually are working. And we're going to work with that, work with their resume. So our clinical case managers will do the final evaluation. There will be a plan. Once they get out, the church will actually, if it's a church or a nonprofit organization, they will take the person and they will actually work with them and work with their family. And basically all that is like a lot of churches have missions programs where they're already doing it. So we're not asking them to do something different from what they already do. They're already doing it. They know how to counsel. Somebody just needs somebody somebody sometimes just to pick up the phone and call. So that support system is going to be there for them to be able to call. So there are some organizations that, hey, we can fix your food, we can provide food for your family, we can help you in terms of job skills, we can help you with clothing, we can help your family if your children need tutoring. So that's basically what this program is about, us reaching out as a community and doing what we need to do, is helping somebody else along the way.
You know, it seems like basic needs that we often take for granted
Right.
because we're doing it every day, but kind of tell us about how different their life is from being incarcerated to coming out.
Well, when you look at incarceration, I mean, everything's scheduled for them. When they eat, when they sleep, when they go to programming, they actually have jobs inside our facility that they're responsible for. And so everything's planned out. And you can only imagine after 10, 15 years of serving time in prison and dealing with that structure, to come out into a society that is tough for all of us, but especially for someone who it's new to, and they don't have the structure that they once had in prison. And so take one is just, you know, to be a friend, to really do what the churches have always done, and that's befriend the downtrodden and really help them to be successful. There's a lot of excitement with our offenders on with this program. Folks have signed up and they're really encouraged that somebody will be there just to talk to them when they're released.
So they have to volunteer to do this?
Yes.
Yes.
As well. And another problem is that oftentimes when they come out, they're going back into the same exact situation that got them there in the first place.
And Deborah talked about housing. We're able to provide a different avenue. We're able to provide halfway housing for offenders who don't have means for housing. And so, and even if you do, we still have reentry counselors that may recommend not going home and going to a halfway house in an interim period. And so we're gonna strategize that while they're in prison, what's the best fit, the best recommendations for them, and then we hand that piece off to our supervision staff that are in the community. Or if the individual's not on supervision, that he's expiring his sentence, we hand that off to the Take One representative, and then we share with them what we feel would be the best recommendation, not to go back into that community.
And so you're creating a brand new community for them to kind of support them. So let's talk about when they're incarcerated, getting ready for this program. How are they prepared for the program?
Well, basically what we do, the counselors, the chief counselors at our institutions will actually do the interview process along with our chaplains, because our chaplains would work directly with the mentors, and the two volunteers form each organization that the churches or nonprofit organization decide will actually go in and visit the inmate 2 to 3 times prior to their release. And sometimes we have a lot of churches that also volunteer already inside our facilities, and so a lot of those churches are participating in Take One, and they are mentoring persons that they have already been mentoring for the past couple of years. Once the offenders fill out the application, then the application is given to the chaplain. The chaplain will then give the application to our case managers, and our clinical case managers will actually sit down with that offender and actually go over and develop a plan for that offender once they are released. And so the mentors will already be working with that offender while they're incarcerated, so they'll know what their needs are, so it won't be a surprise. And those two volunteers will actually go back to, if it's a church, they'll go back to the church and train the body, be able to work with the body. And in the meantime, if the offenders want us to, and the family of the offenders will like, then the church will begin working with the families, or the nonprofit organizations will work with the families at that point. And we do provide training for all of our mentors, so they're not walking into this blindly. We'll be able to tell them exactly what it is, and we're going to be there for support. Whatever there's issues, if their problems arise, we have a steering committee, and that's across the state of Tennessee. We have an East, West, and Middle Tennessee steering committee, and so we have a support group that's out there. So we're not just telling people to go take one offender. No, we're going to support you and help you along the way in this process.
So a lot of people are going to be watching this and say, how can I get involved? So again, it's called the Take One program. If they're interested, how do they go ahead and get involved?
If they're interested, they can go to the TDOC website, tn.gov/correction, and there's a big, they click on Take One, and there's an application actually that they can print off, and they can actually fax to our office. And we will contact the persons once they fax the information. We will provide training. We have training that's already set up. We're having a training in Jackson, Bolivar, Tennessee, actually on June the 25th. We're having another training on June the 28th at Mount Zion Baptist Church, O'Hickory Boulevard exit, and we are having training on July the 12th in Knoxville. And we will have ongoing training. The trainings will be held after these trainings at our local field offices, and we have those as 44 throughout the state of Tennessee. So once we get there, we'll make sure that everybody is trained. The 2 volunteers will actually go through our department training, and they can also contact me, Deborah Thompson, 615-253-8261 if they need more information.
Well, thank you all so much for joining us and telling us about this great program. Again, it's called the Take One program. You have a chance to change someone's life. We'll be right back.